Welcome everyone to Turkish Series Stars, the channel where we plunge into the beating heart of Turkish show business with a curiosity and depth you won't find anywhere else. Before we peel back the curtain on a moment that stunned an entire set, make sure you subscribe to Turkish Series Stars, hit that join button to support our ever-growing community, and drop a like and a comment so we can keep bringing you stories that cut through the noise and get to what really matters. Now, let's step into the storm that rose, without warning, inside a production many believed was untouchable. What erupted backstage last night in the core of Turkish television felt like a collision between rumor and reality, a quiet tension suddenly detonating into something undeniable. The day had begun as any other: sound checks, lens swaps, walkie-talkies buzzing, footsteps racing between wardrobe and set. But all of that familiar hum froze the moment a single voice rang out, clear as a bell and sharp as a blade. It didn't belong to a director or a producer. It wasn't an actor stepping out for a quote. It was the official spokesperson for Barış Arduç, and their appearance in front of the cameras snapped the narrative into a new shape, one centered squarely on Elçin Sangu. For days, whispers had threaded their way from studio hallways to newsroom group chats to restless social feeds, each one tugging at the same people and the same dangerous uncertainty. None of the chatter had facts behind it, but that never stopped anyone from believing they knew just enough to speculate. Then the spokesperson stepped forward and made a simple, forceful statement on behalf of Barış, one that landed like a gavel on a marble table. Every claim aimed at Elçin was baseless, without merit, and utterly untrue. In one breath, the weight of suspicion was challenged with a wall of certainty. To some, it sounded like a shield. To others, a spark that would ignite an even bigger tempest. If you're already hooked by this deep dive, remember to support Turkish Series Stars by subscribing and tapping that join button. Your support keeps us digging for the stories behind the headlines, beyond the hype, and straight into the pulse of the industry. What rattled insiders wasn't only the denial, it was the route it took to reach the public. Typically, statements like these come from the person at the center of the storm or from their direct team. But this time, the defense arrived from the camp of her partner and co-star. In an industry where alliances can shift overnight, the move felt seismic. It was as though Barış himself walked to the edge of the stage and, without raising his voice, sent a message everyone could hear: if you come for her, you come for me. Seasoned observers called it rare. Some even called it unprecedented. In a business where image is currency and one shaky headline can drain the account, artists often step back, avoiding the blast radius of a colleague's predicament. Not this time. The silence was broken, and not by Elçin, but by someone with everything to lose and nothing to gain, except the protection of a person he cares about. So what triggered this sudden intervention? The questions stacked up like props waiting for their cue. Some insiders murmured about supposed issues of professionalism or on-set conduct. Others insisted the rumors were tied to private matters that had no place in public forums. A few journalists framed it as a coordinated attempt to smear. Another camp shrugged and called it a misreading of harmless moments, spun by those hungry for chaos. Either way, the statement from Barış's spokesperson crushed all versions under the same verdict: unfounded. That word didn't just end a sentence, it practically drew a border around what would and would not be entertained. The immediate fallout inside the production space was palpable. A fog that had clung to the atmosphere for days began to lift. Camera crews looked at one another with a new steadiness. Makeup artists shared glances that said more than they let themselves speak. Lighting technicians moved with fresh purpose. The collective mood, once brittle, softened as people quietly echoed the same thought: someone finally cut the cord on this mess. That shift mattered. When whispers slither through the edges of a set, they don't only graze reputations. They chew into schedules, undermine partnerships, and threaten deals that stretch far beyond domestic borders. Executives had already voiced concerns that the rumors, left to grow, could jeopardize international distribution. So yes, what looked like a personal gesture from Barış was also a strategic one, a wide umbrella opened over an entire team. Equally important was what the statement didn't do. It named no rumors and cited no specifics. It did not repeat the accusations for the sake of rebuttal. And that omission wasn't a mistake, it was meticulous. PR experts call it a form of controlled quiet. You refuse to give oxygen to a narrative designed to spread like a spark in dry grass. Instead of playing whack-a-mole with every claim, you strip the rumor mill of fuel. In this case, it worked. The message was concise, and the clarity in its brevity did the heavy lifting. Those within Elçin's circle say the intervention landed like fresh air after days of feeling trapped in a room with no windows. She had been fielding questions that felt invasive, squeezing between work and a whirlwind of commentary that only seemed to grow. There was the sense, not just from friends but confirmed by people who saw the fatigue in her eyes, that a campaign had formed in the shadows and was pushing hard. Then, suddenly, she wasn't standing alone. With one steady declaration from Barış's side, she felt protected for the first time in what had become a long, relentless week. It was a public defense, yes. But it was also a private lifeline, a sign that someone was willing to step into the storm and hold the line beside her. And it wasn't only felt on set. Newsrooms took notice. Outlets that had rushed half-baked stories into the cycle started pulling back. A few platforms quietly deleted posts that had sailed too close to speculation. Others published subtle clarifications. A certain talk show, which had teased a spicy segment, abruptly swapped it out for something safe and forgettable. These pivots were not accidents. They followed a clear signal. A boundary had been drawn, and pushing past it would be costly. One media analyst summed it up succinctly: this wasn't merely a rebuttal. It read like a warning. The cultural tremor that followed was unmistakable. In a single stroke, an invisible ring of protection formed, not only around Elçin but around the integrity of her work with Barış. Reporters recognized it instantly. Interview requests slowed. Gossipmongers lost traction. The two were no longer framed as separate figures weathering separate pressures, but as a unit safeguarding a shared project and a bond that reaches beyond lines on a call sheet. Those hoping to stir trouble suddenly found the ground beneath their feet unsteady. Perhaps the most striking change unfolded inside Elçin herself. When you carry the weight of so many glances and guesses, you begin to forget what it feels like to move freely. But that day, the pressure valve loosened. She could focus again, recentering on the work, her scenes, the careful details that give life to a performance. The barrage of outsider commentary, the low hum of suspicion that never quite stops, receded. In its place was the steady presence of someone refusing to let her stand alone. It wasn't just about rebutting untruths, it was about restoring balance. Tell us in the comments, should more actors show this kind of solidarity when colleagues or partners come under fire? And don't forget to subscribe to Turkish series stars for the kind of layered storytelling that respects your intelligence and your passion for the craft behind your favorite faces. In the wake of the spokesperson's statement, a quiet message lingered like the calm that follows a thunderclap. What people will remember about this chapter won't be the specifics of what was whispered. It will be the speed and conviction with which those whispers were stripped of power. In a media climate where invented narratives can grow legs and run wild, this felt like a rare and meaningful win. By confronting falsehood before it could harden, Barış didn't just defend the person at his side. He helped secure the credibility of the production itself, keeping trust intact for the crew who show up before dawn, for the executives who bet on the work, and for audiences who only ever ask for truth in the performances they love. The industry watched, momentarily quiet, as one crisp sentence shifted the entire arc of the story. And when the dust settled, what stood firm was simple and unambiguous: the claims thrown at Elçin had no foundation in fact. It was more than a denial. It was a stance. A promise. A mark in the sand that said unity still has weight in a business built on perception. Some will say the move was risky. Others will call it brave. Either way, the effect was undeniable. The storm didn't control the narrative, solidarity did. Thank you for watching Turkish series stars. If this deep, reflective report resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, tap the join button to keep this community thriving, and tell us which celebrity story you want us to unpack next. Until then, stay curious, stay tuned, and stay with us for everything, all in one place, right here at Turkish series stars. Back on set, the rhythm slowly returned to normal. The prop master joked again. The assistant director found her tempo. Wardrobe racks rolled across the floor with their usual ballet of sequins and pressed suits. It wasn't that the day forgot what had happened, it acknowledged it and moved on. That is what real leadership does, it spots the leak and seals it before the ship veers off course. This particular ship was carrying more than scenes and schedules. It carried the trust built between two beloved figures who have given audiences years of on-screen magic and, beyond the lights, a partnership that endures the scrutiny others might crumble under. By the time the evening wrapped, a different kind of whisper floated through the halls. It wasn't scandal. It was respect. The kind that says, when the noise rose, someone chose clarity. When fear pushed for distance, someone stepped closer. And when the narrative threatened to twist beyond recognition, someone chose to straighten it in a single, measured breath. You could feel it in the way people collected their things and headed home. They knew what they had witnessed, professionalism anchored by care, and a refusal to let rumor decide the fate of the work. Tomorrow will bring new stories, as it always does. But this one will live on for what it revealed about the strength behind the scenes, where devotion to craft meets devotion to a person. When audiences watch the finished product months from now, they might not know which day held the strain and which day held the relief. They won't need to. All they will see is the result, performances unburdened by noise, chemistry that didn't dim, and a project that kept its course because two people chose to show up for each other when it mattered most. And in the ledger of public memory, the line that remains won't be the rumor. It will be the response. A simple truth stated without theatrics, the accusations targeting Elçin Sangu do not stand up to reality. That sentence won't trend forever. But its effect, on a set, on a partnership, on the people who make television worth watching, will echo longer than the gossip ever did. This is Turkish series stars. This is where we believe that in a world addicted to noise, there is power in the right kind of silence, and even more power in one unwavering voice that says, enough.